Hello, welcome. Jack and Jack show. Jack Stroudley alongside me. 3 weeks running. How are you?
Very well, mate. Very well. Very glad to be back as always. And yeah, I've got the match ball now, 3 in a row.
Yeah, it's a hat trick. It's a hat trick after a smattering of goals here and there. It's like Rodrigo Muniz, although he hasn't actually got a hat trick for Fulham yet. Of course, we play Brentford at the weekend. Welcome to the Jack and Joe show. Fulham drawing by 1-1. No one ever says that, do they? Drawing 1-1 to Crystal Palace. And a very Eze-less Crystal Palace to my absolute disgust and dismay. But yeah, it was good. It was a fairly rubbish game of football. We were both there. I managed to quickly see you outside the ground after the game, albeit less than 5 seconds. But how are you? You doing good?
Yeah, I'm very well. Very, very well, thank you. And yeah, I was at the game on Saturday, and I quite enjoyed it. I mean, it was a bit of a nothing game, but I love Fulham and I don't mind Crystal Palace, so I quite enjoyed just sitting back and watching a game that didn't really mean an awful lot to either side.
Yeah, it was pretty. I thought it would be better than it was, but Crystal Palace started with a very high intensity press, and Fulham couldn't really get out for about 20 minutes, and it caused some fans to get quite annoyed and disgruntled, and that's fair enough. Like we genuinely couldn't get our own half for about 20 minutes, but that was probably down to Palace's press, probably poor passing as well. So a mixture of the two. Before we get into today's video, of course, we need to mention our sponsors, Green King Sport. Thank you so much for the support this season. It's been fantastic. I was in a Green King pub on Wednesday watching the Merseyside derby between Liverpool and Everton at Goodison Park, and it was a good pub. The King's Head in Tooting, and they've done it. They've done it all up. They've revamped it, and it looks very, very smart and very nice and reasonably priced. And the beer I had was a Level Up IPA, and it was delicious, like really good, like so good that they had to change the barrels because everyone was ordering it. So once I went up and said, "Yeah, can I get 2 Level Ups?" They said, "Oh, the barrels need to be changed." I said, "Yeah, I'm not surprised. It's fantastic." Like every Jack and Joe show, the episode is sponsored by Green King, where football is more than a game. Green King pubs are the best place to watch live football, and including Fulham or any other team that's on the box. And they have over 900 pubs across the UK, dotted around the UK, meaning you're within walking distance of a Green King pub, like I was on Wednesday. Not quite walking distance, but a bus ride, which is more than fine. 175 in Sadiq Khan's London. So grab your friends and family and head to a Green King Sport pub, and you can watch the title race, which is still going on, the relegation battle, Europe playoffs, and all that jazz. You'll be helping out Fulhamish as well by doing that, and there are deals and competitions if you download the Green King Sport app. Now, on the box this weekend, or in fact this week, Thursday, which is Tuesday, we're recording on Tuesday, so in 2 days' time, it's Ange Postecoglou's Spurs who travel to our neighbours, I suppose, in Walham Green at Stamford Bridge. That's on Sky Sports 7:30 kickoff. Friday, probably I would argue the biggest game of the weekend. Luton hosting Everton. I mean, not so big for Everton, they're already safe, but for Luton, massive. And we find out maybe what happens with Forest this week as well. Saturday, Arsenal hosting Bournemouth for the early kickoff on TNT. Fulham away at Brentford. We'll get into it at 3 o'clock. That's not on telly. We're on telly next week. Late kickoff, Manchester City hunting down. Are they hunting down Arsenal? I suppose they are. They're still second, aren't they? And they host Wolves. And on Sunday, Brighton at the Amex, really going badly at the moment under De Zerbi. That's an interesting sort of subplot to this season. De Zerbi and Brighton's second half of the season. They host Unai Emery's Villa, who are still chasing Champions League. And the late kickoff is Liverpool at home to Tottenham. And the Monday night football, the pride of South London, the famous Palace boys at home to Manchester United, where, of course, then in that game last season, Michael Olise scored a last-minute free kick to draw the game 1-1. And I think Olise and Adam Wharton were probably two of the best players on the pitch on Saturday. Would you say that? Would you say so, Jack?
I'd say so. I think Adam Wharton was absolutely brilliant, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
I thought he was comfortably the best player on the pitch. He's a player who I liked in the Championship. Haven't really been able to watch much of him since joining Crystal Palace, but I've heard raving reviews from loads of different people and sat down at Gravy Cottage on Saturday and just watched it, and he was fantastic. As you mentioned, Palace started the game really well. Fulham couldn't get out of their half because of the press and just transition play from Crystal Palace, and Morton was a huge part of that in the middle of the park, winning the ball back whenever Fulham even tried to get out. And Fulham were quite fortunate not to be behind, kind of, I think, in those opening kind of exchanges of the game. Elise missed a really good chance. Wharton had a strike saved as well from outside the box. I think Mateta missed an opportunity as well. So it wasn't a particularly great start from Fulham. But I think a lot of that is down to how good Palace were. And Fulham had to, do a bit of a Newcastle with Bernd Leno going down with an injury, which then kind of there was a big old talk. Marco Silva had everyone over and obviously gave some kind of tactical, advice and things to change, which started to work towards the end of the first half. I think we were fortunate to go into the break level. But I think the final kind of 5 to 10, Fulham grew into the game.
I think that was good momentum going into the second half. But really, the first half an hour was a pretty painful watch if you're a Fulham fan. Struggled to create. I admired the way Palace brought the game to us. I mean, they had just beaten Newcastle 2-0 and Liverpool 1-0 the previous week. And in fact, that's not right, is it?
They beat West Ham as well. There we go.
So, their confidence was sky high, and Glasner's got them playing this quite aggressive press. And I'm excited for Palace. Really, I mean, they've got Richards. Chris Richards looks really good as well, playing that sort of back 5, back 3, back 5 sort of formation. And like I said, Wharton was brilliant. But anyway, on to Fulham, yeah, we struggled to create. And then suddenly the second half, we came out and we scored within 7 minutes of the second half. Castagna and then Muniz. Rodrigo Muniz, again, Jack. 9th goal of the season. He's 1 away from double figures.
I know. What a resurgence in the second half of the season it's been. And yeah, we kind of took the momentum from the back end of the first half into the start of the second half. It was really good play down the right-hand side. Castagna starting it off. Then it was a really good dubby from Bobby Reed. Ball fell to Castagna again, and a really nice ball into the box, into that kind of corridor of uncertainty. And Muniz was there at the back post, and there was only going to be one conclusion when the ball got to him in the position that he was in. And I think, it's a goal that he deserves, and I'm so happy for him because I think he's been brilliant even when he's not been scoring goals. But, some people might be starting to think, maybe it's a purple patch. And he's, but I really don't think this is a purple patch at all. I think he's the confidence that he's got, even when he's not scoring, he's playing like a real number 9. And I think that it was a really difficult game for him on Saturday in that back 3. Him and Joachim Andersen was a battle, all game. And Muniz held his own, for the majority of it, I thought. And deserved his goal, I think. I think he deserved his goal. And I think that, Fulham grew into the game and were starting to play good football. And I think they deserved the goal as well.
I would say it was a fair draw result. But I think Palace would probably feel more hard done by with the chance they had in the first half. And actually, I think we got away with one a little bit. But taking the lead was great. 15, 16, 17 minutes afterwards, Paulinho came off. Now, that's fine because we don't want him to get more yellow cards. We've got 3 games left. 3 games? Yeah. And he's 2 yellow cards away from a 3-match ban. So, we talked about this last week. So it's sensible to bring on Sasha Lukic. I mean, he wasn't on a yellow, so that's good. We go to Brentford in the derby, a game he missed last season at the GTEC because he was suspended. So it'd be good to see him out there on Saturday. Joachim Andersen back at the cottage, but he wasn't We weren't giving him a round of applause. In fact, we were remonstrating with the referee. How long is it going to take until you book him? And he didn't book him until the 90th minute in added time. I think he should have been booked way earlier. But it was nice to see him play. It's always nice to see him play. I still think he's a quality centre back, and Palace are very lucky to have him. And then what a goal! I mean, probably one of the best goals scored against us this season. I know Liverpool scored a few bangers, but in terms of just roaring wow. Do you remember that goal that Victor Wanyama scored for Spurs against Liverpool at Anfield, where he just smashed it first time and it just like came in, like went right in the roof of the net? This was very similar. And I was just like, when the goal went, I just went, what a goal that was. I mean, there's not much you can do about it. And disappointing because we were very close to a very undeserved, satisfying 1-0 win.
Yeah, unbelievable strike. It was one of the kind of those ones where I was just sat there and I just looked at my mate and I was like, well, you can't stop those. That's an unbelievable finish right into that top corner. And Jeff Schlupp seems to love a goal at the Cottage against Fulham. You know, and I thought the Palace were kind of knocking on the door a little bit for the kind of 5 to 10 minutes prior as well. Edouard had a chance that was well saved by Leno. And yeah, I think that Fulham will be the happier of the two sides out of getting a draw. Although I don't think Palace will be too disheartened just because they've got the new manager bounce and it's very positive at Crystal Palace at the moment and they're playing attractive football that's getting them results. But yeah, in terms of the goal, it was an absolutely unbelievable finish. And then from that point on, you know, I felt anyway that if anyone was going to go on to win the game, it looked like Palace. I know there wasn't really many chances, but, you know, Fulham made some substitutions. And I didn't really think that they worked the way that Marco Silva would have wanted them to. And we were just fortunate that Palace weren't able to carve out another opportunity.
Yeah, Palace were knocking on the door and the goal came and no one could really grab a grasp of the latter stages. It was all sort of to and fro. It was almost like both teams wanted to go and win it, but also both teams didn't really mind settling for a point. So that's how it ended. We're 13th, 43 points. I mean, we can now equal our points tally of last season if we won every single game for the rest of the season. That would put us on 52 points, which we finished 10th last season on. But I doubt that's going to happen given we're playing Manchester City. Although you never know. It would be great, wouldn't it? And Crystal Palace sit 3 points behind us as well. If we were to finish on 52 points, we'd probably finish around 10th or 11th, which would almost be a mirror image of last season. Let's move on then. Any final takeaways from the Palace game? I mean, it's a game where both sides were pretty safe. It was good to see what Glasner can do away from home. Obviously, they won their last away game against Liverpool. And it was slightly frustrating that Fulham couldn't quite... I thought we were missing a little bit of sparkle in the final third. That's a sort of a game and a half about Willian. And then when Willian came on, there was a little bit more impetus when we came forward. And you know, at his age, it's still amazing that we're sort of relying on him to sort of add some quality to our forward play. That's not saying that no one else can provide it. That was just when Willian gets the ball, things seem to happen. So yeah, and next it's Brentford, and we thought this could be a bit of a crunch game where we could, you know, sink them down to relegation. But they've been on okay form before the loss to Everton the weekend. They've been unbeaten in 5, 3 of those draws, including draws against Villa and Manchester United, a goalless draw with Brighton, and then 2 wins on the bounce to Sheffield United and Luton, 2 teams in the relegation zone. So it's not amazing form. It's not wow, but they host us on Saturday, and boy, there's not much fire in the belly on my side. But what about you?
I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I think me and you have had this conversation kind of privately a few different times that I grew up very close to Griffin Park. And as a result of that, had lots of Brentford friends in school during the period where Bees Up Fulham Down was rife. So it has... I've grown a severe dislike towards Brentford, so I would quite like to go to the G Tech and turn them over. Although it's quite annoying that, in one of our derby games, we actually have a really terrible record against Brentford for the most part. Apart from, we won the 3-2 last season and we won that playoff final. But other than that, we've not really done an awful lot. We've obviously won away at Griffin Park. I was on a Friday night. I remember we won, was it 2-0 and Kearney scored right at the end?
2016, yeah.
Yeah. But other than that, we've really struggled against Brentford. But I am up for it. I'm not up for going to the G-Tech and consuming the G-Tech beers because they are terrible. But I am up for the game.
Yeah, I mean, there's enough within the Fulham fan base, and I've seen a couple of things that sort of got it going on Twitter so far this week. But I think it's one of those ones where, like, it's the same with QPR. You don't really realize how much you don't like them until you're in the ground and you're hearing "Hey Jude" and you're hearing all their songs, and you're like, actually, I don't like you guys. Yeah, this is a derby. Whereas that Chelsea sort of, I don't know, there's something about Chelsea. They're sort of ever present, so you can always sort of be like, oh, I don't really like Chelsea. Right, so it's a game for pride. It's bragging rights. There's nothing else on the line, really. How do you see this one going then? Because Ivan Toney's been out for a couple of games. He hasn't scored in 9, I don't think. If I was Gareth Southgate, which I'm not, and you put a gun to my head and you say, would you rather take Dominic Solanke, or you could take 2 of Dominic Solanke, Ivan Toney and Ollie Watkins to the Euros, I'd be saying Ollie Watkins and Dominic Solanke, just based on form. I don't. Yes, you can walk up to a penalty and score it without sort of flinching. That's fine, but also I just think that they're on better form. They've had better seasons. They've played more football, and they probably warrant it more than Ivan Toney. But hey, I'm not Gareth Southgate, and I think he probably will make the cut, which is disappointing to see. Which actually reminds me, I think Adam Wharton should be in that 26-man squad. I really do.
Yeah, I think you look at our midfield options. Now, obviously, look at like Calvin Phillips has completely dropped out of the squad. Henderson's not near the squad really anymore. There's kind of a little bit of an opening there. And Wharton, given if he keeps up the form between now and the end of the season, why not? I don't think he will, because he plays for Crystal Palace and he doesn't play for a Big Six side. But I'm with you. I'd quite like to see Adam Wharton in the squad. But in terms of the game on Saturday, I've got a real sneaky feeling about it. I really do. I've got a real feeling that we're gonna go there and we're gonna turn them over. As you mentioned, they've picked up a little bit, but it's not spectacular form. They completely dismantled Luton, which is fair enough. Beat Sheffield United and then a couple of draws. I mean, they probably should have beat Man United in fairness, but the amount of chances they had. But I think Fulham are going to sneak it. I'm going to go 2-1 to Fulham.
Just trying to think of a way, and we'll line up. Oh, of course, we haven't even mentioned Tosin is leaving, and he's been left out the squad. He was in hospitality, which is pretty humiliating, but quite a sort of brutal move from Marco, who then after the game apparently said that he's still open to playing him. But I don't know. Maybe Tosin's head sort of looking elsewhere. Looking at the lineup we played on Saturday, in came Issa Diop for Tosin. Harrison Reed came in as well for Sasha Lukic, and it was Iwobi, Pereira, Bobby Reed, and Rodrigo Muniz up top. So in terms of taking that into the next one, I don't think Diop did that badly. I thought Bassi was good again. So I'd probably keep the same back 5, Leno in goal, the same back 4. Paulinho starts for me. I would start Kenny. Because why not? I mean, why not start him? It'd be really nice if TC did some bits down at the not the hallowed turf, the turf of once was Griffin. Well, it's not Griffin Park, but what it is, the G-Tech Stadium. A few 8 years after he's scored against them in the Championship, it would be fantastic to see. I would start Kenny just for pure, I want to see Kenny play. Doesn't mean that's going to happen. Maybe Lukic, maybe Harrison Reed keeps his place, sorry. 3 behind the striker, which will be Muniz, will probably be Pereira. I'd start Wilson. and Willian. Wilson right, Willian left. If Willian's back and fit, I'd start him. Nothing against Iwobi, just a little freshen up a bit. Just freshen up. Bobby Reid, was pretty good when he came on. But sorry, did he come on? Did he start?
No, he started Bobby Reid.
He started, yeah. Sorry, I'm getting confused with all the games. Bobby Reid was good. Iwobi was okay, but again, we sort of didn't really see much of the two because we couldn't really break in that first half. So yeah, I'd go with Wilson, Willian. What about you?
So I would go the same back five. Polinia starts. Harrison Reed went off. I think it was an injury. The reason Harrison Reed came off, he seemed to be hobbling. And I actually thought that Harrison Reed had a particularly good game. I know that's kind of divided opinion on Twitter since the game. Some people didn't think he played well. I thought he played he'd done a solid job. If he's fit, I'd play Harrison Reed. If he's not fit, I would go with TC in the middle with Polinia. I think he's quite tricky. Obviously, very technical, and I think that could be quite useful in a game like this. Pereira in the 10. If Willian's fit, obviously Willian on the left. If he's not, Iwobi. I agree with you. I would play Harry Wilson on the right hand side as well. He's a direct option. He can kind of cut inside. Can be creative and it can score a goal out of nothing really. So I would play Harry Wilson. And then, of course, Rodrigo Muniz has to start as well. So very similar teams we've gone for. The only change for me is if he's fit, I would play Harrison Reed over Kearney, just because I'd quite like to see us have that bite and intensity in a game, which, let's put it right, they're going to be absolutely up for it.
This is only our third game at the G-Tech. Previous two was obviously the 3-2 loss last season, Solomon scoring, Vinicius scoring, and then a 3-0 defeat in that Carabao Cup game behind closed doors where Seri missed a chance where I'm still sort of shaking my head as to how he didn't score it. That was pretty grim that evening. I remember it was live on Sky as well. So, for a derby game, there's not much hype. There's not much build-up. There's not much electricity. However, if this was being played in, I suppose that when we played them in the second game of the season, there was a lot of sort of, here we go, we've just come off a win against Everton we didn't deserve, and they had drawn to Spurs, but then we lost 3-0 at home. So you're saying 2-1 Fulham. Oh, I don't know. I said 0-0 to you the other day, didn't I? I don't think it'll be 0-0. I think we're going to take the lead. They're going to turn it around 2-1, and we'll equalise late on to grab a point, and everyone will be pretty happy with that. 2-2. I'm going to go Desmond. A point on the board, which means we can't equal the points tally of last season, but it's okay. It might not be okay for some, but it's okay. Is there anything more to talk about? We've been linked with former Palace player Wilfried Zaha this week. Any thoughts?
I just Fulham for me. I've said this to you. I said it to all my mates. Fulham have the most Turkish league team ever, and adding Wilfried Zaha to that would just be fantastic. In terms of an actual signing, he's a direct option, isn't he? I can't see it really happening. He only left. He left Crystal Palace because he wanted Champions League football, and a year later he's going to come back to the Premier League and back to Fulham. I don't really know. I can't see it happening. It would be a very Fulham signing, though. Someone in his 30s who's kind of, people have kind of really forgotten about him, to be honest with you. And Marco kind of comes back and gets the best out of him.
Yeah, it reminds you of Willian.
Yeah.
I mean, Zaha in his day, it is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic player. Goals, assists, tricks, flicks, and big moments. He's a big game player. So I would be well up for that. It'd be quite fun to have him down in West London. It is worth saying that Fulham have been fined £75,000 for, I think, illegally adding a sell-on fee when we signed Fabio Carvalho from Balham, which is amazing that the fact he came from Balham. Someone put on the Telegram the other day, earlier today, I can't believe he didn't come from Sporting Lisbon or Benfica. It's a good point. Honestly, the kid's got talent. We've seen that in abundance since he joined Hull. I mean, what it means is we've got a 6-month suspended. How do you even describe it? Read the Athletic article by Peter Rutzler. In fact, I might just quickly get it up now just to add a bit of context for those who don't have a subscription or can't access the article. If it refreshes. Yeah, so Fulham have been handed a suspended 6-month ban for registering academy players and fined £75,000 after accepting they breached Premier League rules regarding settlement payments made to grassroots club over former player Fabio Carvalho. So, I mean, I read some of the small print in this article, and it didn't seem as bad as people are making out. It's not like I think it underlines that it's not like we can't integrate academy players. It's if we break that rule again, if we basically supposedly, I think, do exactly what we just did again within the next year or 6 months, then we'll get the suspension. Then we'll get Any thoughts on that?
I saw as well in relation to that and on another an article that Fulham, we've got that same sell on for Martial Godot from, was it Margate that he came from?
Yeah, I think he did come from Margate.
From Margate, I think it was Margate. But yeah, we've got that same thing on Martial Godot, that same kind of settlement sell on that we had with Fabio Carvalho at Balham. So if Martial Godot is to leave, then there might be a bit of a problem. But I don't think we need to worry about it, to be perfectly honest with you.
Oh, it was Dartford.
Dartford, that's the one.
Dartford FC.
Okay. Either way, I don't think Fulham need to worry too much, basically.
It's not as deep as I first thought when it was first put on Twitter by, I think, Ben Jacobs. Fulham's ban from registering academy players from other teams suspended for a year and would come into force if the club were to breach the same rule again within that period. So I think we could sleep easy tonight. I think we'll be okay. It's not like we're losing points over it. It's just 75 grand, which, by the way, is a hell of a load of money for the everyday common man. But in football speak, it's not too shabby. Jack, thank you so much for being here. What a pleasure.
Cheers. Thank you for having me again. Thanks everyone for listening. If you're going to the G-Tech, try and enjoy it. I know it looks like Legoland, but it's quite easy to get to. So enjoy, and hopefully we can wander out of there chest high with 3 points.
Yeah. Because last time a lot of people had left by like 85 minutes because we were 3-1 down and they didn't want to hang around. I actually stayed till the end and Vinicius pulled one back. By the time this comes out, you'll already know, but Luton tickets, of course, come on sale tomorrow at 10 a.m. for season ticket holders with over 1,200 loyalty points. Then it goes down to 1,000. And then I think is it 950 then 900, or is it 900 800?
I think it's 950 900.
Right. Okay. So it's a small allocation. It's last day of the season. It's not the end of the world in terms of the actual game itself, but I know there's a lot of people desperate to go to Luton. So fingers crossed, those who want to go can grab a ticket. Jack, am I seeing you at the G-Tech on Saturday?
You are, in fact, seeing me at the G-Tech. I will be there, rattled by every Hey Jude, by every time they sing about Diego Forlan scoring against us in a European final, and every Bees Up Fulham down, despite the fact that we're in the same division for what's going to be 3 years on the bounce.
Yeah, it's a shame there's not like they're 2 points above the relegation zone and we could like put them in the mire if we were to beat them. But here's to next season. We shall see. Thanks so much for watching, and come on Fulham.